Birds' dreams might have already come true, and yet Howie Roseman is still hungry for more, as we got some very promising news on Zack Baun's pending contract, plus a new trade candidate that could be a lot more realistic than Myles Garrett. Oh, and the real dream scenario, at least in the NFL draft, that everybody thought was impossible, might have some life. I'm Thomas Mott. This is the Thomas Mott Show. We can talk trade candidates and draft prospects all we want during the week of the NFL Combine, but I found the majority of my commenters are worried about in-house candidates and taking care of the Eagles' own before venturing beyond the NovaCare practice fields to bring in fresh talent. I mean, after all, besides two obvious expected departures, the Birds' 2024 Super Bowl team is going to remain, 95% intact? So why tinker with a formula that was at one point up 34-0 on Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs? And I get it, trade rumors, draft rumors, they're both very fun. Plenty more on those coming up here in just a second, including Abdul Carter. But right now, the main focus of all Eagle fans is what happens to one player, in particular, named Zack Baun. Baun has had one of the most surprising rises in recent NFL history. An absolute no-name free agent who not only switched positions in training camp, but turned out to be the best player at his position for the entirety of an NFL season. Not a good player, not a great player, the best player at the linebacker spot in the NFL. There are a lot of fans worried that conventional Howie Roseman thinking means not paying big contracts to linebackers because, historically, Philadelphia has done just that. For instance, they passed up on homegrown TJ Edwards, who eventually signed a simple 3-year deal with the Bears worth just over $6 million a year. In fact, I looked it up. The richest linebacker contract ever given out by Howie Roseman was a 5-year deal to Nigel Bradham worth $40 million in 2018, although Bradham only earned $11 million of that over 2 years before being cut. But I've said all along, I've been told Zack Baun wants to stay an Eagle. He will resign as a Philadelphia Eagle. And I think Howie Roseman's press conference 2 days ago gave us a very clear example of they want to go ahead and do just that.
We have to make all those decisions, but I think to kind of put us in a box and say, hey, we're not going to play, and I'm not saying that you're saying that we're not going to pay because historically we haven't done that. I mean, part of what we do is evolve and look at things and see how things are affecting our team, how things are affecting the league, and seeing our place in that.
In short, Howie just said they're trying to evolve from the past few years and get away from the set of norms throughout his tenure. Giving Baun a big contract could be the next evolution in a long list of changes the Birds have made en route to their second Super Bowl. Now, of course, pair all that thinking with the brand new report yesterday morning from the Philadelphia Inquirer that, quote, the Eagles have made re-signing Zack Baun a priority ahead of free agency, according to NFL sources. I think Birds fans can rest assured that a Baun deal is coming very soon. We tend to forget that Howie basically confirmed as much many months ago during his guest appearance on Jason Kelce's late night talk show, so do with this as you will.
Did you know Zack Baun was going to be this good?
That is intercepted. Zack Baun has it.
Be honest.
I went to him, he made first team All-Pro, and I went to him and I congratulated him, and I said, man, you deserve this. And he said, be honest. Did you think there was any shot of this? And I said, no. And please remember that when we do your contract.
Now, I do think we will have to wait until at least the start of free agency for the Baun deal to get finalized. I'm sure his agents are telling him, wait to see what other teams are going to say, use that offer to get more out of Philadelphia, but rest assured, it's going to get done. Now, speaking of getting things done, and we move over to Myles Garrett, and the recent update from Jeremy Fowler saying the Eagles will be not only heavy buyers of the trade market for an edge rusher, but would step in and stop a trade between the Browns and the Commanders if push came to shove. And I, like many of you, took the Jeremy Fowler report at face value. Like, Philadelphia is going to go for an edge rusher, and it might be Myles Garrett. However, I've seen a lot of people saying Philadelphia's playing 4D chess and just trying to drive the price up for Garrett. That way the Commanders or somebody else spends a lot more than they should. Is that true? Honestly, who knows? But I could see Howie Roseman putting all that info out on how much they love Garrett, just turn around and go hunt a much cheaper edge rusher, like, for instance, Titans' Harold Landry, who just so happens was granted permission to seek a trade by Tennessee yesterday. Although in reality, if no one wants to trade for Landry, the Titans could just end up cutting him due to an out in his contract and simply allow him to hit the free agent market and sign with a team like Philadelphia without costing us any draft capital. And let me say this, if you have not watched any Tennessee Titan games the past couple of years, I don't blame you. Harold Landry is a very, very good edge rusher. He's 1 year younger than Myles Garrett, definitely not in Garrett's level, not even close, but still very, very good. He had 9 sacks with the Titans in 2024 and double-digit sacks each of the 2 previous years. And again, this is while being on the Tennessee Titans, who lost a combined 35 games during this 3-year span. Landry can definitely play and could be a I want to win for once sort of candidate who cuts the Birds a deal and allows them to let Josh Sweat walk in free agency, only replace Sweat with someone I would argue is slightly better and likely cheaper when the contracts are all said and done. I want your thoughts on the whole pass rush situation. Are you all in on Garrett? Would you consider a cheaper Landry? Do you want to trade up in the draft and draft somebody? More on that in a second. Give me your thoughts in the comment section right now. Now, if you do just want to draft an edge, say at 32 or perhaps early in the second round after a trade back, the Eagles' recent combine interview list should get you at least a little excited, as Philadelphia has met with a bunch of candidates, including Ole Miss edge rusher Princely Umanmielen. Umani Ellen is the prototypical twitchy edge rusher in the mold kind of a Nolan Smith, coming off a double-digit sack year at Ole Miss. While not considered a top 4 edge rusher in this class, he will likely be available toward the end of the first round or even early on in the second. Now, of course, as the combine is going on, it is very important to point out that just because we meet you at the NFL combine does not mean the Philadelphia Eagles are going to go ahead and draft that person. They care a lot more about actual top 30 visits. Something our guy Anthony DeBona has always pointed out, that this is the Howie Roseman draft philosophy. Pick a guy you spent a lot of time with. As DeBona tweeted previously, prior to the 2023 NFL draft, the Eagles hosted Jalen Carter, Nolan Smith, Tyler Steen, and Keely Ringo to the facility on top 30 visits. Prior to the 2024 NFL draft, the Eagles hosted Q, Cooper DeJean, Jelix Hunt, Anai Smith, and Johnny Wilson on top 30 visits. So do the math, 56.3%, 9 out of 17 Eagles draft picks in each of the last 2 seasons had come to Philadelphia for a top 30 visit. 100% of Philadelphia's first 3 draft picks in each of the last 2 seasons had a top 30 visit with the team. AKA, if they're going to pick somebody, the odds are pretty good that person will be on the Birds' top 30 draft visit list, which will start to grow very quickly as the draft is almost here. My main question, though, is how bad will Howie Roseman actually chase the dream scenario that just dropped this morning following the news the potential #1 overall pick and childhood Eagle fan Abdul Carter has a stress reaction in his right foot that might need preemptive surgery to have a screw inserted into said foot, meaning he will obviously miss the combine, but his pro day as well, and maybe, big maybe, could fall in the draft. But then shortly after Schefter's report, it seems like Abdul Carter's camp released the fact that, you know what, additional scans revealed he's not going to need surgery and should be okay. AKA, they didn't like the repercussions and are trying to go ahead and cover their tracks. Okay, he's not falling to 32, right? This is the best edge rusher in the draft class, and many people consider the #1 overall draft pick, but if he were to fall to, say, 8, 9, or 10, would Howie pounce? Well, again, Carter is the best player, according to most people, in this draft. You could set up a very similar scenario to Jalen Carter's draft night fall just 2 years ago. And remember, this kid is a die-hard Eagles fan who said many times his dream would be to play in Philadelphia, and even said recently he took his dad to the Super Bowl in February to experience cheering for the Eagles one last time.
Yeah, it was dope. I went to the last Super Bowl when they played the Chiefs. They didn't get the job done, but be sure they got the job done. Happy for them. It was really cool being one last year, being an Eagles fan.
But again, this is a dream scenario. Surgery or not, he's not falling to 32. So Philadelphia either has to kill this dream before it even happens, or they simply wait and see maybe if a draft night fall is possible, and then make the biggest trade up since Carson Wentz and go make this defense even scarier, even younger than it already is. And again, I know what you're saying, Thomas, Abdul Carter is not falling in the draft. That's true, but a lot of people said Jalen Carter was not going to do that as well. Obviously for different reasons, but Jalen Carter falling all the way to 10 was never supposed to be the scenario, and yet Philadelphia landed him, so keep this scenario in your back pocket as we continue to see what's going on with Carter's injury. Maybe it could happen, maybe not, but I want your thoughts below. Now moving back to Philadelphia, and Jalen Hurts' high-flying 2025 has continued, following, of course, his Super Bowl 59 MVP award, but now he's accepted the Philadelphia Citizen of the Year award for mentoring the youth of Philadelphia, giving $200,000 to Philly schools for air conditioners. And I thought his acceptance speech from earlier this week is definitely worth hearing if you love the city of brotherly love.
Everyone has a certain level of drive, a certain level of passion, a will, an energy, and a passion about what they do. And I think that's a quality that oozes throughout the city of Philadelphia, of tough and gritty people that don't take no for an answer. And I think the most important quality that we all share in this room is we all are in pursuit of something greater than ourselves. Trying to lift as we climb, trying to bring someone along.
I can't get over Hurts' meteoric rise from run-only quarterback to year-one fluke to a guy who will join a long list of QBs to lose a Super Bowl and never return, only to not only return, but play his best once again on the brightest stage in a complete embodiment of the city he plays for, and the fact that this bond between city and quarterback is set to continue for many years to come is as good as it gets in the NFL. Oh, and it sounds like Hurts' favorite play might be here to stay. You're going to love this. As the NFL released a report yesterday about the injuries caused by the Tush Push in 2024, and wait for it, the data showed 0 injuries were caused by the play the entire season. So yeah, all those coaches 2 days ago who were saying, it's just too dangerous of a play, we can't keep it in the NFL, what do you have to say now about it? Why can't other NFL crybaby teams and coaches look at this play the exact same way as the Texans GM did yesterday? This is the perfect take on the Tush Push.
Yeah, I think everybody probably has an opinion on it. I think what I would say, and D'Amico and I have talked about this, you don't necessarily want to penalize a team that's done something very well. Like credit to Coach Stoutland and Coach Sirianni that's a play that's been effective for them. They got a good quarterback who's got good lower body strength. I mean, not every quarterback can squat 600, 700 pounds. So the techniques that they utilize. So again, just because you can't stop the play, I mean, is that something that you have to take out of the game? I think you got to be careful about just totally ridding the game of it. I would say, I'm sure the league will talk about player health and safety. Is it put the players at risk? It's a well-executed play by the Eagles, all right? And they've had success doing it. No one's been able to stop it. So, honestly, at some point, the onus is on, figure out a way. And if you can, and the way they implement it, they're one of the few teams, or about the only team, that handles it the way that they do. So the sneak play in and of itself, there's a lot of dynamics that are involved. Some quarterbacks want to be in a fray. Some quarterbacks don't. You look at Buffalo, Josh is 6'5", 250 pounds. So, I mean, he reaches his hand out there. He's got a first down. So every team's got to handle a little bit differently. So I would just say, to penalize a team because they do something well, it's probably something we just, need to think about as a league.
Finally, yesterday's annual NFLPA Award Team Survey came out, and it was kind of a sticker shock for Bird fans who were pretty surprised to see the Birds go from the 4th best overall organization, according to their players, to the 22nd best in the NFL. With players poorly rating the Birds' locker room due to inadequate size, team travel due to coaches getting first-class seats on flights instead of players, and treatment of families for the team not providing daycare during home games. Now, this doesn't sound that great, but it is worth noting the NFLPA poll was conducted during training camp, and apparently Philadelphia, and according to reports, Philadelphia addressed a ton of these specific concerns after training camp, and so a lot of people are saying inside the locker room, the ratings right now would be a lot higher. Still, they did just win the Super Bowl, so it can't be that bad in Philadelphia, and my guess is Jeffrey Lurie looks at this and will make plenty of changes, and I'm sure all these things will be addressed heading into 2025. Now, of course, the Combine is happening as you're watching this video, and we're going to find out more about who Philadelphia likes, doesn't like, who they're meeting with. Again, not a guarantee they're going to draft that player, but very curious who the Eagles actually take meetings with over the course of this weekend, and I'll obviously cover it all here on the channel. Be sure to go ahead